if we can find those human stories of individuals with disabilities and we tell their stories authentically and we get them out there, then somebody will maybe be inspired to chase their own dreams in adaptive athletics, or somebody will be more inclined to listen to disabled people, to challenge their own perspective.
Hello, everyone. I welcome you to the We're Not Stumped podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Ryan Wilson, the CEO of Team Trust Productions, a disability-led full-service production company with teams located across the country. Team Trust Productions specializes in helping businesses move from financial uncertainty to financial clarity through strategic video marketing. Their work boosts brand awareness, grows revenue, and amplifies impact within the community. Under Ryan's leadership, the team brings both creativity and purpose to every project, proving that inclusive storytelling isn't just powerful, it is profitable. By the way, when you love what you hear today, please reach out to Ryan at teamtrustproductions.com for any of your marketing and or video needs. Ryan, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the We're Not Stumped podcast.
Of course, Mike, I'm happy to be here and happy to be talking with your guests and listeners.
And there's so much that you've actually offered me that I'm going to get to. We had a little conversation before we actually started hitting record, but you had passed over a guide that we're going to talk about, and I can't wait to talk about that because I learned a lot from that guide. We always start the podcast with a segment I call In Your Own Words. So I'd love the listeners to learn more about you.
Yeah. So, you mentioned Team Trust in the beginning. I do run Team Trust Productions. It's been quite the experience, but nothing that I regret doing. It's something I enjoy and I will continue to do. So, for me, I'm in Colorado Springs right now, but I grew up in a small town in Illinois of about 4,000 people. When you're in a small town like that, it seems like you're the only guy around in a wheelchair, like I am. And so I really didn't have a good grasp of my potential. As a kid, I didn't really know what I could do. And so I think I kind of set my bar, my standards pretty low. And then when I went off their adaptive athletics program. So they're wheelchair basketball players, they're wheelchair racers, and those athletes were incredible. So the wheelchair racers in particular, they had been on TV, they had won all sorts of ESPYs and gold medals, and they have very big shoulders, but they have even bigger hearts. And so they let me into their worlds and they let me see what it really looks like to live with a disability. And they really taught me that there really are no limitations. The limitations we have are the ones we set on ourselves. And so I wanted to kind of take what I learned from them and amplify it a little bit. Originally created Team Trust to tell the stories of the adaptive athletes, to get their experiences and lessons known. But I realized as we were doing that, there are so many more opportunities out there if we're tapping into companies and organizations around the US to get their resources, their offerings out there in front of people and change more lives. And of course, they can generate quite a few bucks for the nonprofits as well. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm happy to be here today.
Ryan, you broke up just a second when you were talking about where you went originally. So where did you meet these people? I apologize for that. I'll blame
Yeah, so
Zoom. I'll
I
blame Zoom.
yeah, so I met these people at the University of Illinois. They have an adaptive athletics program with wheelchair racing and wheelchair basketball. And so kind of embedded myself in their worlds and changed everything for me.
What was it like creating Team Trust Productions? And you talked about the vision possibly changing. I shouldn't say changing, enhancing. What is that like to create a business?
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I think when I started it, I was just finishing up school. And so when you're that young, you really are in the mindset of having a job, holding a job, making some sort of money so you survive. And that's important. But with a business, I'm not designing myself a job. I am designing a business. And so what the difference is I don't want to be the one doing everything. I find people, good people who help me reach out to clients and facilitate video editing and shooting. So I find a team and I make sure we're all going in a good direction together. So there have been quite a few learning lessons along the way, quite a few risks. Some of them did not work out, and that's okay. There's really no losing. It's only learning. So it's been quite the endeavor, but I do enjoy it.
One of the things, this is how I met you. You reach out to me with a disability guide. And I got to be honest, it's a disability marketing guide, but to me, as I read it, as someone that was born with one hand, it was more. It was so much more to me. And I'll talk about a little bit what it has in there. It has stats, it has a self-assessment, it has terminology, it has history, and even more than that. What made you come up with that guide, and what was the inspiration behind that guide?
Yeah, so the inspiration behind the disability marketing guide was the adaptive athletes. It was my connections, my lived experience with disabilities. So I use a power chair, and I think that really positions me to have unique experiences. People don't think I'm capable of doing much. They don't know what to say around me and all sorts of things. So the disability marketing guide is designed to help really any company better understand the disability community. There's a lot of marketing out there, a lot of marketing videos about disability, but if a company misses the mark, if they use the wrong terminology, if they cast disability as inspirational, they're really hurting their reputation and their credibility. So it's been fun to hear the reaction from the guide. I'm glad it worked out for you. We've had a few big companies really dig into that thing. So maybe we'll create a second one down the road. But it's been fun.
Is it available to anyone?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
available to anyone on our website. We have a tab on our website, free guide, and anybody can get it.
Well, like I said, I think it's 63 pages of fantastic reading, and it's to me, it's more than just a marketing guide. One of the things, like I said, you have the terminology, and I'll tell you one that kind of struck home with me. There was more than just this one, but it kind of took me back in time to when I was maybe 13 years old in the late 70s. There was a show called Real People back in the day, and they used to always use the term handy capable, and I'll tell you how you probably remember how you you describe it, but I'll let the listeners know. Generally speaking, this is an ableist term. It has historically been used to focus on a person's limitations, and I can't agree with you more because when I first heard, like I said, I was 10, 11 years old. I heard handy capable. I'm like, I'm just capable, and I think that's what you're trying to get across with what you're doing, and even in the guide. Is that along those lines? Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. I'm glad that resonated with you.
There's
Yeah.
a heck of a lot more that resonated in there for me, including the history. I thought that was one of the most comprehensive history lessons that I've ever had. Like I was telling you, I didn't know when Special Olympics started, but I know that
Mhm.
I'm older than it, which is probably not a good thing. But some of the other dates in there were just fantastic. Again, I can't recommend it enough. If you want to get it, go to teamtrustproductions.com. And if you want to learn more from Ryan, do that as well. What are some of the challenges to running a company, though? I mean, like I said, that must be a big endeavor.
Yeah, it is. So when you're first starting off with any company, especially a service-based company like Team Trust is, challenge is client acquisition. So bringing in the business to make sure you're staying financially stable. So it is a challenge and it can be expensive. So you have to be pretty strategic and careful as to how you approach these things. And I think what's different about running a business with this disability is, you can grind 24/7. A lot of people, might try that, but if you have a disability like I do and you're just grinding all the time, like, I'm gonna be sick. I'm gonna be in the hospital. In fact, a year and a half into starting Team Trust, I was hustling pretty hard, late nights, up early, and then I fell out of my wheelchair and ended up in the hospital. So that was obviously a reminder to slow things down. So it is pretty challenging to navigate everything, but it helps to find mentors and role models who have done it. They've been there and done that before. And that's, I think, made the whole experience a lot easier for me.
Well, while there's challenges, there's also victories and things, success stories, let's say. What are some of the ones that really stand out to you that you've worked on?
Some of the big successes. We've had quite a
I
few.
know.
Yeah, so it was fun a couple years ago to do a project in Hawaii. So we were filming an adaptive surfing championship. And I don't normally go on the shoots. My team takes care of that stuff. But then I learned if I go to Hawaii, I'll be in the same hotel that my parents stayed in during their honeymoon.
Oh, wow.
And my dad passed away a few years ago. Okay, well, mom, you have to come with now, and we've got to make this a good experience. So that was pretty awesome. And then we also did an adapted mountain biking tour a few years ago across the southeast. We filmed in 9 different cities across 9 different weeks. We got a lot of footage. And so that was pretty cool as well because it was one of the earlier projects really honed in on the adaptive sports aspects and Catalyst Sports, our clients. They're just phenomenal people. So those two projects have stuck out so far.
What was the inspiration for you to think about the adaptive athlete and then try to put it together with like a video communication of it? What in your mind goes, guys, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to start doing.
Oh, in terms of like telling the stories of adaptive athletes,
Yes.
well, it's really for me not necessarily the focus on the adaptive sports. It's the focus on the human being. So if we can find those human stories of individuals with disabilities and we tell their stories authentically and we get them out there, then somebody will maybe be inspired to chase their own dreams in adaptive athletics, or somebody will be more inclined to listen to disabled people, to challenge their own perspective, challenge their terminology. So I'm just focused on the human interest stories, the human beings, and making somebody feel something from that.
What are some of the things you think are missing from marketing now when it comes to inclusiveness, especially within the disabled community?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, you saw the guy. There's a lot
I
there.
did. That's why I'm
Um, I think a big idea is people are assuming they understand us. So they may assume from me that because I'm in a power chair, I can't do this and I can't do that. And so those assumptions can be dangerous. And they may even assume that we're always suffering, we're always in misery because of our disability. And that's not true. Like I'm not miserable. I'm not suffering, even when I've broken 60 plus bones, but I'm not miserable. Just another day for me. You get used to it. So I think that's the big one. And it's not just isolated to disability. It's really just comes down to your assumptions about another person. So you do a great job of listening to me, Mike. And not everybody listens. Not everybody asks those questions. So if you take a moment to understand your audience and who you serve, then that can really change the game for you, and it can make your audience feel heard and valued and all sorts of things.
Very well said. Again, I want to remind everyone I'm on with Ryan Wilson. He can be found at teamtrustproductions.com. You need any video marketing needs, please reach out to him. I'm sure he'd very much appreciate it. What has changed for the positive as, during your life? What do you think has changed, maybe going in the right direction that was different when you were younger?
Yeah, well, when I was younger, I didn't know much about adaptive athletics. I thought it was Special Olympic stuff, and I thought that was bad. And so growing up in central Illinois, I considered going to an adaptive sports program or organization in St. Louis for wheelchair basketball or something. But because I wasn't too familiar with the whole disability thing, I thought that might just be, not a good idea. I thought it might put me in a box of being in the Special Olympics or something, and that's just not what I was looking for. And I think slowly but surely, the Paralympic Games, wheelchair racing, it's getting out there, and more people are seeing the true potential of a person with a disability. There's still a lot to go, but I think overall, we're seeing a good trend, good healthy trend in the right direction.
Yes, it's really changed since I was younger as well. Of course, when I was younger, Shaquille O'Neal wasn't even in the league, but I know that he was one of your favorite basketball players, and you have some great stories about him in the Disability Guide. You want to talk
Yep.
about how he's inspired you a little bit?
Yeah. Oh, Shaq. So yeah, I'm a big basketball fan. Shaq was and still is my guy. So growing up, I watched Shaq play in every single game that I could, and I have a jersey, a Shaq jersey, from every NBA team that he was on, minus the Orlando Magic. So I have the Lakers, Suns, Boston, Cavaliers, Celtics. I think that's about it.
Heat?
Yep, I have that one too. I forgot. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
So yeah, I just really liked how talented he was. He was just a larger than life figure. And then when I was in high school, I had a Make-A-Wish trip. And my wish was to meet Shaquille O'Neal. And I had actually already met him before that time. My dad and I kind of found out where the Los Angeles Lakers were staying one time in Milwaukee, and we were slightly stalkers, but we found him and got his autograph. So I had a Make-A-Wish trip in high school, and my wish was to meet Shaq, and he is huge. But just like the adaptive athletes, he's very caring and very, very down to earth. So I think he could still play in the league right now, even though he's almost 40 or I don't even
50, I
know
think.
how old he is. But yeah, he's quite the guy.
I'm surprised you don't have the Orlando jersey. Hopefully, somebody out there listening has a way to get you that Orlando jersey.
I can still get it. So I'll make it
Yes,
happen.
that's true. I grew up with some idols too. In NBA, Dr. J was my person because he's just graceful on and off the court. And I feel the same way about Shaq. Everything I read about him, he's supposed to, like, it looks like he's a fantastic human being. So it's always great to, like, look up to someone that really does it right. Another person to give him a plug, Larry Holmes. I was a big Larry Holmes fan back in the day in boxing, and just seems like he always did it right too. So, but Shaq, yeah,
Yeah, well,
like
I
you
think
said, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, we got to get you to Colorado Springs, Mike. We've got to show you the Olympic and Paralympic Training Center in town. So I'm there quite a bit around the Olympians and Paralympians. I think we've got to get you in town around those athletes. So
I would be honored.
they have gold medals
Oh yeah.
and all sorts of medals, and so they're similar to Shaq, not as tall, but they are super talented and super caring as well.
Oh, I agree with you. I had a gentleman, you may know him, Todd Key. He's a cyclist that is trained in Colorado Springs. Great person. He's been on the podcast. No, I completely agree with what you're saying. But by the way, I certainly would love to go there if that opportunity ever comes up,
Absolutely.
to be honest. So as you look forward, it's going to be a double barrel question, which you never want to do, but I'm going to ask both professionally and personally, what are you looking forward to in the future? Let's say the next 5 years as things progress for you.
Well, so personally and professionally, there's always a lot to look forward to. We have quite a few projects in the works with Team Trust, and right now, as we speak, I'm in the process of growing our team. So I think within the next month or so, our team should be twice as big or so, which is a lot to
Yeah.
handle right now.
Yeah.
Lots of meetings and calls. But it's really exciting. And so that helps me quite a bit. So I'm not having to hustle as much. So that'll be huge. And as we grow with Team Trust, there'll be a few more awesome trips in there with my mom and maybe some other people. So the ultimate goal is to make a difference, and I believe we're doing that.
Yeah, the ultimate goal is to make a difference, and not only do you believe it, I know it. I've read everything you have. I was on your website again. As a reminder, Ryan Wilson can be found at teamtrustproductions.com. Excellent website. And since that guide is available and you're so kind to share it, I highly recommend everyone that's listening. Matter of fact, I work with some organizations in Arizona. I'm going to print it off here and give it to them because it's so good. Send them the PDF. It is so good. I thank you so much for putting that together, but also thank you so much for taking the time to be on the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm so glad I met you, and I'm so honored to have you on for all the great things you're doing. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the We're Not Stumped podcast. I have an ask for everyone that got to this point of the podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. The reason is simple. These stories need to be shared. It would help it to get out there to the people that really need to hear these stories.